Let's turn to Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. Secretary Noem, thank you for joining us. Have you learned anything about the motivations of this shooter? Why did he do this? Why did he drive across the country and carry out this brazen attack in Washington?
Well, the investigation is still ongoing, and we're allowing our partnership with the FBI and DOJ to continue to reveal all of the sources of motivation. But we do believe this individual, when they came into the country, we know he was unvetted. He was brought into the country by the Biden administration through Operation Allies Welcome, and then maybe vetted after that, but not done well based on what the guidelines were put forward by President Biden. And now, since he's been here, we believe he could have been radicalized in his home community and in his home state. So as we continue to talk to his family and his contacts, more details will be revealed, and we'll release those when it's appropriate. But this is something that for these individuals, when they're brought into our country, it's a dangerous situation. If you don't know who they are, if they're coming from a country that's not stable and doesn't have a government that can help you vet them, that we shouldn't allow it. And that's why I'm so grateful that President Trump has taken the action that he's taken the last few days to stop all asylum, to stop all processes that bring people into this country until we ensure that we know who these people are.
So you're saying there was no vetting outside the country? Because we had been told that there had been vetting outside the country. You're saying that there was no vetting at all by the Biden administration?
If you remember, during that operation when Afghanistan was abandoned, people were just put on aircraft and brought to the United States. And the administration said at that time that they would vet them when they got here. And so they did, but they didn't do a thorough investigation. What they did was check a few names and a few data points. But what President Trump has put in place now for vetting is biometric information, checking social media platforms, communications, contacts, matching up dates of service. That was never done under Joe Biden. He didn't do that. In fact, he brought people to this country and then just said, well, we'll vet them later. Okay. And that's how things like this happen. If you remember, this individual's application to be in this country started under the administration of Joe Biden. The information was gathered under the administration of Joe Biden, and the consequences of this horrific shooting and death of Sarah lays directly on the shoulders of Joe Biden and his administration. I
mean, I don't know what happened in this case. What the Biden administration has actually said is that they did vet these people in third-party countries before coming into the United States. But you just said that he was radicalized here in the United States. So is it our understanding that the issue, his intent, happened here? This was not something he came to the United States with an intent to carry out attacks like this?
Well, we know that when Joe Biden left the White House, he left us with a 1.5 million case backlog in asylum claims. And individuals are required under a law and under policy to check in every single year when they have asylum in this country, and that wasn't being done. These individuals that were brought in and then vetted on information that was gathered by the Biden administration that wasn't thorough. And so now we're completely changing that since President Trump has been in the White House, and since I've been at DHS. We're using biometric information. We're using those social media platforms and looking at what they're saying and doing, and making sure that we have a government, when a country is sending us someone, we have a government that is stable in that country that can actually share information with us. How do we vet someone that comes from Afghanistan or Somalia or Yemen if they don't have a government that we can communicate with that will share information with us? And so that is one of the prerogatives and one of the priorities that we're putting on these countries if they want to continue to send us people that want to claim asylum.
And you said that he was radicalized here in the United States. He was admitted to this country by the Biden administration. That's 100% correct, 2021. But he was granted asylum by the Trump administration in April. So did you see any red flags?
If you remember, John.
Yeah, did you see any red flags?
John, all the information that was gathered on that vetting process was gathered under the Biden administration. His asylum claim application started under the Biden administration. That information was provided by them, and the responsibility lies with them. And we need to know that and speak the truth of how this entire process happened so that we can fix it. That's what President Trump has been doing and dedicated to, is that when we look at people who deserve asylum, they have to be thoroughly vetted. They weren't under the last administration. That has completely changed under President Trump.
But again, he was granted asylum in April, so President Trump had already been in office for several months. You had been in office. Are you saying there was no vetting done by the Trump administration? You were simply relying on what had been done under the Biden administration? You did no vetting before granting him asylum?
The processes were put in place using information that was gathered during the application process that happened under Joe Biden, and that has been completely fixed, and new metrics and new processes have been added under President Trump. He immediately went to work, and we put in place under USCIS the new data and new information that can be gathered, such as communicating with governments, getting information from them, and making sure that biometric information and dates of service match up. Much of the information that was gathered and provided by the Biden administration wasn't thorough and wasn't done. And what kind of a crazy world is it when you have a president that allows millions of people to come into this country unvetted, not knowing who they are, from countries that perpetuate terrorism upon the United States? And when we saw during Operation Allies Welcome was over close to 100,000 people that were allowed to come to the United States, that Joe Biden said, you know what, we'll vet them after they get here. We'll let them into our country, and then we'll vet them after they get here. And then they didn't do it. They didn't do a good job, and it wasn't complete and thorough, and that's what is being fixed right now.
Again, what the Biden administration said actually is that the vetting was done before they came to the United States. But let me ask you about another subject.
Well, I think if you watch what happened unfold,
but you just said that that's
you
what
watch people pull on.
Biden said. I know, but
you watch people load onto those planes.
They didn't come from those planes directly into the United States. But let me ask you about another question.
During that period of time.
There's a Washington Post report that one of those Venezuelan boats that was attacked by a U.S. missile, alleged drug boats, that a second missile was launched because there had been 2 survivors clinging to the wreckage of the boat. I know this was obviously carried out by the Defense Department, but is the administration concerned here that that may have violated the laws of war? I mean, was there an imminent threat posed by those people that were clinging to the wreckage of a boat that had already been struck?
Oh, John, that entire story is based on anonymous sources. So we see the press and we see that rag use anonymous sources all the time to print things that aren't true, that are lies, that are completely not based in reality. So I would not put any credibility to that story, to what was said. I have full faith and trust in this president and in this government to do the right thing to keep the American people safe. And I'm so grateful at the amount of work that has been done to stop those deadly drugs from getting into our country. Just in several offloads that we've been able to interdict and to stop and to blow up in the Caribbean Sea, it's been enough to save over 45 million people. 45 million lethal doses were completely destroyed, that people will now be safer because of the work that the Department of War and this president have done.
This is now a subject of investigation by both the House and the Senate Armed Services Committee. But let me ask you before you go, as you know, a U.S. district judge has now reopened a contempt inquiry into the decision to fly those planes of Venezuelan immigrants, alleged gang members, to El Salvador after he ordered the planes to be turned around. In a DOJ filing, the Department of Justice says that you were the one that made that order. So I have 2 questions on that. First of all, is that right? Does the buck effectively stop with you on this? Was this your responsibility? And had you known that the judge had ordered those planes to be turned around when that order was issued?
Yes, I made that decision, and that decision was under my complete authority and following the law and the Constitution and the leadership of this president, who is dedicated to getting dangerous criminal terrorists and gangs and cartels out of our country. And I'm so grateful that we get the opportunity every day to do that and to make decisions that will keep America safe.
Did you know about the judge's order when you issued your order for the planes to continue?
This is an activist judge, and I understand, we're still in litigation with this against this activist judge who's continuously tried to stop us from protecting the American people. We continue to win. His ridiculous claims are not in good standing with the law or the Constitution. We'll win this one as well. And we comply with all federal orders that are lawful and binding, and we will continue to do that. But I'm proud of the decisions that I've made, proud to work for this president each and every day to keep America safe.
All right, Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, John.